Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Current Affairs with Astrology, hosted by myself, Julian Venables, and Robin Ray. Robin's been an astrologer for over 40 years. I've been an astrologer for about 25 years. And we've recently decided that we need to, doing as with all these COVID lockdown thing going on, we're starting to present a new view of how we can interact astrology with daily living. So what we're looking at is this idea, the theory behind this really is that, of course, as we all know, aspects are happening in the sky all the time. There are things happening in time. As we are astrologers, we know the planets line up. And there are different news stories also simultaneously that line up. And we're going to be looking at those and see how they line up with the aspects. And then we're going to be looking at general themes and see how that applies to your own life. So that's essentially kind of what we're doing. So I hope you enjoy this. I'd just like to say for your diaries now, our next Current Affairs with Astrology will be on Tuesday, December the 8th. And the one after that will be Tuesday, December the 22nd. And then we will post the dates for the new year. So please note those down now. And also, if you enjoyed this evening, please tell your friends or find us on our websites or YouTube channels and subscribe and become part of our network. So I'm going to start by showing you the chart for right now. So I'm going to do a share screen. I'm hoping that everyone can see the chart for right now. So the first aspect that caught my eye at the moment is, of course, it's building up this week, but I noticed it in the news today. And Robin, can you let the people in to the waiting room?
Yeah.
You're letting them in, are you?
Yes.
Okay, they're in now. All right. So the first aspect that I noticed in the news today already is the upcoming Venus in Scorpio opposing Uranus in Taurus. So this happens once a year. It's definitely a relationships red alert aspect because it will usually bring about some sort of a change or between partners, between two people. Now, of course, Uranus is the planet of innovation, evolution and progression. It breaks away from old ways and does new things. So when you've got the opposition with Venus, then you're looking at this idea of either values being changed or relationships or partnerships. And there's usually a lot to do when it's in Scorpio, Venus currently in her detriment in Scorpio. With Venus in her detriment in Scorpio, then we're really looking at this idea of too much passion, too much intensity. Or maybe not too much, maybe it's just enough. But there's usually a lot of intensifying of relationships because Scorpio is a fixed water sign. It opposes Uranus in Taurus, and of course Venus rules Taurus. But so Uranus here is a very slow-moving planet, and it's going to be 7 years in Taurus. So there's very large themes developing with Uranus in Taurus, large worldly themes. So in the news today, what I noticed was 3 stories that I think will be building up this week to peak points. Okay, Venus actually makes its complete peak to the opposition to Uranus is just after 5 p.m. on Friday, the 27th of November. Now, Robin will take over at that point because she's going to show you something, but I'm giving you the inroads to this, and I'm also showing you what I think the news stories that will build up, which will lead to us making some predictions. So firstly, this week, we've got the ISIS bride in Syria, who was stuck in Syria. She's a British citizen, and her citizenship was removed after she went to run away and join ISIS. Her name's Shamaya Begum, and she's stuck. And the Supreme Court is basically, she's battling out this week in the Supreme Court in London. So there's a big issue there about values and changing values in the world, because she probably never thought when she went off to ISIS that she was going to get caught up in and not be allowed to come back to what she would consider her home. So this is a kind of, if you like, Venus opposite Uranus, because it's about how she's relating to England, I suppose. But it's very much the idea of Uranus being the outsider. And Uranus is, she's really out on the boundaries now. She's stuck in Syria, and so that's Venus opposite Uranus. She has a passion to come home, but now she's stuck. She's finding it very difficult. So that's one news story that will peak this week. Donald Trump last night conceded to Joe Biden. So this is a big financial movement in the executive branch of the American of federal government in America. It means now that finances are being moved across so that Joe Biden can take over in the inauguration in January. So that is a very money-based thing. When the sitting president concedes, it means that the resources are now being shifted across to Biden. This is, of course, is a Venus opposite Uranus in Taurus. It's that kind of a situation. And if you take the long-term cycles of Uranus in Taurus, which is going to be there for 7 years, then you're looking at a kind of influence of what the Biden presidency is going to be about as well. Money and resources is the beginning of that theme. And to add to that, Joe Biden also announced last night that he is choosing as his climate envoy, he's going to choose John Kerry, who was, of course, did the movie at the turn of the millennium, fought the general election against George Bush and lost in the year 2000. So John Kerry is going to play a major role in the new Democrat government as a climate envoy. And this will be a partnership. An envoy is a type of a business or political partnership or diplomatic partnership. So here we go again, Venus opposite Uranus. So those are three stories that have caught my eye. If you want to think about general themes at the moment, then you need to be looking in your own lives at this idea of being very self-willed or having peculiar inclinations that seem to come out of nowhere, Venus opposite Uranus. Maybe some inconstancy that needs to be monitored. You need to think about that sort of sense of having a tendency to be very swayed by your feelings, sensitivity, that sort of hardly controllable tension that builds up with Uranus, because Uranus, of course, is freedom from the known. Uranus likes to break away, right? Uranus does the most odd and slightly eccentric things, and Venus is passionate in Scorpio. So there may be strange urges and possibly unfaithfulness. So this is all leading up this week, okay? And if you look at those news stories and you have a think about that, right? Those keywords also go with what's happening in the news, okay? So in a way, we are all one in this world, is what I guess what we're trying to say here. So it's about recognizing that and see what happens in your relationships this week. It can be with friends, whatever areas of life it's in. There's going to be something that's very Venus Uranus, okay? So Robin, would you now like to tell us a bit what you found with Venus Uranus?
Well, what I'm thinking at the minute is that Venus Uranus is going to tighten up. So I think Venus will be more exact around Friday. Is that correct?
Yes, it peaks just after 5 p.m.
Yeah.
London time on Friday, the 27th of November.
Okay, so I would expect on Friday evening some sort of news.
Actually, I'll tell you what. I'll go back to my chart again, Robin, and I'll animate that for everybody. All right. Okay. So we can see that, in action. Hopefully you got the chart again.
So I would be expecting the news in relation to that opposition to be peaking at the end of the day on Friday, bringing some sort of a shock.
Well, how about that? You see, Friday, the 27th of November, at about 20 minutes to 5, okay, the moon is applying 1 degree away from Uranus. So moon opposite Venus.
The moon, of course, is highlighting this particular aspect. So this is bringing a shock in the news on Friday night. So let's see if we can find out what that shock might be.
I might say I believe that would be taboo, Robin. Something taboo, right? Like one of those kind of scandals. A scandal.
Some sort of scandal.
A scandal. Yeah. So there would be something going on there that would be surprising, probably to the people involved. Maybe it's a bit more than a whistleblower, this one, I think, don't you?
Yeah. There's definitely something. Watch the news on Friday night. There's going to be some sort of revelation about something, or something's going to come up, which I think will be more exposed on the 30th, which I think is the Monday. So Monday we've got a lunar eclipse. So do you want to let me?
Yes, absolutely. So we have the lunar eclipse.
The lunar eclipse is at 8 degrees.
Just about there.
Yeah, so there's the lunar eclipse on Monday. And so it's going to start off on Friday. And then we have the lunar eclipse on Monday. So Monday's going to, with the lunar eclipse, it's quite interesting, because if it was a full moon, then things become very clear with a full moon, and things can go one way or the other. They can be a make or break situation. But when you've got an eclipse, there's some kind of blockage or some kind of a secret or something that has to be discovered, if you like.
And
so,
Robin, this is a big Venus in Scorpio secret, isn't it? You know?
Yeah. So I think it's very interesting with that Sun-Moon opposition in Gemini. And I know that the one of the Sibley charts has got, well, the Sibley chart has got something around that 8 of Gemini. I know that Trump has got a prenatal eclipse at 8 of Gemini. I know the Civil War chart has got something around the 8 of Gemini. I know that, what other charts am I thinking of? I don't know. I can put mine up if you like. I've got them all on my margin. So let me put my bi-wheels up, Jules. Give me the Shem. Give me the.
Okay, I could just. Do you want me to just keep doing now like this, or do you want me to do your charts?
No, I'd rather do my own.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so let me let me share my screen. So okay. Okay, so I don't know what I've got up here, but I've got to get in the habit of doing this. That's why, because you always manage to do it, so I've got to do it myself. So you share.
First, Robin, before doing the share.
All right. Can you see that?
I can only see your solar fire main screen. So
okay, all right.
What I would suggest is that you.
It's all right. It's fine. I know. I know.
I've got it. We've got it. We can see it. Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay. So this is the American Civil War, 12th of April, 1861. And the thing that caught my eye about this was that we've got Mars and Uranus at 6 and 9 of Gemini. So that's, you know, that's quite important. That's in the major war chart. We've got let me just find it. So we've had a look at the eclipse, the lunar eclipse, which of course is at okay, so here's the lunar eclipse with the with the sun and moon at 8 degrees of Gemini.
If I might say, that's a really interesting chart with that Pluto throwing a semi-square and sesquiquadrate to the eclipse as well, with America's Pluto return coming up.
Yeah.
It kind of throws an extra tension to it, doesn't it? There's extra tension there.
Well, I think it's a very tense eclipse. Although it's not a major eclipse, it is a very tense eclipse. You can tell that by the different aspects. So it's not going to be easy. There's definitely going to be some issues, and there's going to be something that's hidden because the nodes are square Neptune. And so there's a hidden element that maybe we might not get to grips with, or maybe we won't find out about immediately. But Mars is sextiling the North Node. So, you know, a lot of energy is being put into trying to work through something, some event that's going to occur. So let's just have a look at what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a tri-wheel. So bear with me till I get them all up. I'm going to put the Civil War, the USA Sibley, and the lunar eclipse. Right, so new share. So you can see that. Jules?
Yes, we can see that. Thank you, Robin. Yep, that's very clear. Yep.
Okay, so here's the lunar eclipse on the outside. We've got the Civil War on the inner circle. We've got the USA Sibley chart, and we've got the lunar eclipse all lining up. And I know that in Trump's chart, he has his prenatal eclipse at 8 degrees of Gemini. Melania has, what has she got at 5 degrees of 5 degrees of Gemini? I can't remember. I've got her here. But anyway, there's some sort of issue and some sort of shock. And where is that Scorpio, the Scorpio Venus? Right, okay, so we've got this Uranus here in Taurus. So I know that Uranus is on Melania's Sun and Venus, and she's got something.
Yeah, Melania's got Mars at 5 degrees Gemini, Robin.
Yeah, so she's got Mars at 5 Gemini, being picked up by this line of degrees, and she's also got Uranus on her Sun and Venus. So she's also having a shock. So there's shocks coming in every direction. So I'm inclined to think that the news is going to be about America. And I know we've got some American attendees here tonight. So I would, I would brace yourself, in actual fact, for something shocking coming out in the news by sometime next week. Usually it's fairly close to the eclipse. It may happen over the weekend, or it may be a story that continues, but it's something that's very unexpected anyway. Okay, do you want to go back to what you're doing, Jules, for the minute, or?
Yeah.
What our plans are really is to talk for a while and then open up the the floor for discussion, really, if anyone wants to. I know there's a lot of astrologers here tonight, so I'm sure all of you have got lots of insights and probably seeing things. We're picking up on a couple of themes, but we may not necessarily be picking up on things that you're thinking about or seeing, because everyone's got their own pet situation that they're following. So, but anyhow, I'll hand over to you for a minute, Jules.
Thanks, Robin. Okay, so I'll swap the share screens again, and we'll go to what back to the animated page that I've got here. So yes, this just one more thing on the Venus-Uranus conjunction is something I quite like to do here, is look at the front page of the newspaper, and so today, can you all see the Daily Telegraph front page today?
No, can't see anything.
You can't see that. Oh, okay, but you can see the chart when I bring it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to keep in mind that Venus in Scorpio opposite Uranus. So what I'll do actually is I'll just do a share screen with this to show you quickly. That should do it. Can everybody see that?
No. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, good. Okay. So yeah, as I said, one of the main themes this week is Venus opposite Uranus, and of course Boris has got a great spin line there. 'Tis the season to be jolly, careful. And of course, that is kind of, in a way, it kind of has that sort of Venus in Scorpio, because at the moment we've got Mercury and Venus together in Scorpio, which are ruled by Mars. And Mars is in its domicile in the other, is in a very strong place. And it's just gone direct after having, it's just stationed this last couple of days. And of course, Mars is pointy things. It rules jabs. And the main news has been now for quite a while, has been the idea of the vaccine. And the vaccine is a jab. It's a Mars ruled thing. That's what the injection is. And so essentially, Mars in Aries, the race has been on, because the race has been on to find the vaccine. And that's Mars in Aries. It's a race. It literally has been a worldwide race, because of the nature of Aries, is to be first. And so, when you see things like your guide to lockdown liftoff, the liftoff is Mars going direct after having been gone in reverse. It's stationed and now it's lifting back off again. It's moving forwards. And
it's interesting that they've been developing the vaccine while the Mars has been retrograde.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that the fact that Venus and Mercury together in Scorpio, it really enhances this word here, to be careful. Yes, it's time to be jolly, but be careful as well. And then further down the page, well, I suppose one could say that Uranus is accidents, and now Venus is in orb. So the Scorpio ruled, the Mars ruling in Scorpio, it highlights this idea of the 90% success rate by accident. It's Uranus is an invention. Uranus is something very inventive, the eureka thing, and they might have suddenly had the eureka moment in the labs. So that's interesting. But as I said before, here's some of the news that's really highlighted. There's the jihadi bride, a security threat, which is we got this one, university staff face anti-racism training. That's another greater theme there to do with Scorpio, but I want to talk about that today. Pension, here's a good one. Pension reforms could cost investors a 100 billion, right? Now, Scorpio and Taurus are the money signs. So when you got Venus in Scorpio, Taurus in Uranus in Taurus, then of course, finances, investments, pensions, savings, ways of spending money are really highlighted. And in fact, actually, with Venus opposite Uranus at the moment, this is going to be one of the big themes this week. So pension reforms costing investors. I mean, here this is ringing all the Venus words. Venus being values and money, the planet of values and money. So we've got pension reforms being Uranus. Pensions is Scorpio, and investments. Investors is Scorpio, but also Taurus. And 100 billion is a lot of money, as in it really rings on that Taurus Scorpio axis. So that's quite interesting. I think that's the only main headline today.
Can I just interject here and say that we've got a wide variety of people here tonight, and we've got some students and beginners in astrology, so we're trying to gear it to them understanding their astrology and being able to understand the transits and what they mean. But we've also got some professional astrologers as well. And anybody who, I'm watching the chat box, so anybody who wants to say anything, we will unmute you, because we're very interested in anything that you've got to say as well.
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes. And thank you, Sharon, there for the fixed star Antares involved. It's at 9 Sag. So, of course, that's and Aldebaran is directly opposite Antares as well. And I'm not an expert on fixed, well, as in I can always brush up on my knowledge on fixed stars, but I do know that that's a nuclear axis, or is very connected to like that kind of fusion. Those two stars do have a lot of history to do with fusion power, a lot of power in them. And it's possibly connected to the government's decision that they're talking about building a nuclear power plant, aren't they, in Suffolk, I believe, in Hinckley, in Suffolk. It's been in the news recently. That could be, it's a lunar eclipse. It could be that they decide something different. So, we'll see what happens with that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I forgot about Antares.
Yeah. So let's have a look at this. Back to the chart. I want to now highlight the next aspect of the week, or stuff that's building up for the rest of this week. Okay, so it's quite interesting aspects. Okay, it's going to be, here's Mercury today. Mercury's at 19 Scorpio. It's now lining up to make the sextile aspect of 60 degrees to firstly Pluto, then Jupiter, then Saturn. It's going to be doing this on the Mercury sextile Pluto is also on Friday. And in fact, it actually occurs on Friday morning before Venus Uranus. Now, Mercury to Pluto, of course, the sextile, then you're looking at things like sly and cunning. Okay. You're also looking at things like sharp and incisive communication. Okay. Because Mercury's in Scorpio and Pluto's involved. You're also looking at crafty things and subtle things. So there's also, but maybe quite a lot of powerful diplomacy at hand. Okay. So discussions can be very diplomatic, you know, like there's a lot of, it's like power is being talked about. And maybe it's the changeover of power. So there's the idea of the wielding of influence when you've got Mercury making good aspect to Pluto. And it's also about having very good powers of observation. So these are three areas, or several areas there, that are going to be pinging on Friday morning. Exactly, and it goes exact at just after 10:30 a.m. Okay, and of course then that Venus Uranus is just after 5 p.m. All right, so you know it's that Friday is going to be really interesting, and these are aspects in water signs. Mercury's in water, Pluto's in Earth, and then Jupiter is in Earth and Saturn's in Earth. So it's water to Earth. So we're looking at the idea of something that is receptive. Okay, it's not necessarily a pushed out there kind of expression. It's more like an internalized receptive understanding or thinking process or decision-making process, things that people will go on within ourselves or within themselves. They'll be thinking.
Do you think it's uncovering things?
Absolutely. It's definitely the researcher, it's the investigative journalist, and it is, I have without a doubt, it's the, you know, I mentioned it earlier, but
because I feel like something is going to be uncovered.
Yes.
With the lunar eclipse coming up.
Yes.
And there's so many shock elements in all those charts I've been showing you that I just feel like something's going to be uncovered that's going to be shocking.
Yes, yes. And amazingly enough, of course, the day afterwards, so the Mercury makes an exact to Pluto on Friday morning, Venus opposes Uranus Friday late afternoon, early evening, and then the next day, Mercury is making an aspect to Jupiter, which is big headlines. You know, it's like, it's a massive thing because Jupiter expands stuff. So, you know, Saturday night, right? London time, it's about 3 o'clock, but just before 3 o'clock in the morning, Mercury makes an aspect to Jupiter. So that's the evening in the USA. Okay. So, but with that, then you're looking at constructive intellect, Mercury to Jupiter, water to Earth. So constructive intellect, a wealth of ideas, sound common sense, an active mind, but as I said, not necessarily expressive, you know, maybe internalized, learning and being successful in business. So a good time to put something forward, you know, if maybe, you know, anyway, it's Saturday, but you know, Mercury to Jupiter. Okay. And again, this is a powerful few days. Okay. Because Mercury is about being very precise, and it's about a penetrative and determined mind. It's about digging in to find something very precise and analytical.
So can I ask you where the moon's going to be then? I mean, it's going to be past
on Saturday.
It will have been past there. No.
Yeah. So on Saturday 28th, the moon's still in Taurus, And also the moon actually will be there right the way through. Well, the moon will
until it gets to the 8th Gemini on
pretty much until Sunday night.
Yeah.
And it's actually going to be, and then there's a big shift. But Mercury, you see, then lines up to then make a nice aspect to Saturn. So that's that's the end of the sequence. So it's basically Friday Mercury to Pluto, Saturday Mercury to Jupiter, and Monday is Mercury to Saturn.
So that's one good aspect on the Monday with that lunar eclipse. At least there is that Mercury sextile Saturn.
Yes.
So that's bringing something constructive into the situation.
That's at 7 p.m. on the Monday. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll just get that approximately. So the eclipse has happened and Mercury goes to Saturn. And Mercury to Saturn is logical thinking. It's thoroughness. It's concentration. It's getting very straight to the point. Mercury Saturn doesn't really beat around the bush very much because it'll say it as it is. Quite organized, quite industrious. It's the application of method. It's gaining experience, and it's concentrating deeply on something. But with the moon in Gemini, well, there might be a lot of things to concentrate on. I think there's like a lot of subject matter. So the eclipse, of course. And
the Mars, of course, Mars is applying to a sextile of the North Node as well, which is that's a good thing.
If we're going to get a really big scandal and exposure this weekend, which I think we are, then Mercury to Saturn won't hide anything. Yeah, it's kind of Mercury to Jupiter says this is big. Mercury to Saturn says nothing can be hidden anymore. That is kind of what I get sort of, and that moon in Gemini with the eclipse is like, well, it's all over for someone. What do you say, Robin?
Do you want to talk about the I know it's not next week or the week after, but I just really think it's something for people to look out for. Do you want to talk about the Jupiter Saturn making an exact conjunction, exact declination?
Yes, thank you. Yeah. So this is a really huge event. Okay. So can you see a chart on the screen, Robin?
No, we can't.
No chart. Okay, hang on. So all right. Let's get that up then. Can you see a chart now?
Yeah.
Good. So this, folks, is a really, we've got something amazing coming up now. And Robin, I do want you to give me some input on this as well. This is the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction at 0 Aquarius. Okay, this is the Great Conjunction. It's a huge turning point for humanity because we are now moving fully into the air trigon, which is something that Kepler used to go on. It's the idea that Jupiter-Saturn meet every 20 years like clockwork, and then in the signs of the same element. So they have been, since 1802, they have been meeting in Earth signs, but the last 40 years, they've had a crossover phase going from Earth to air. So from 1802, we had Industrial Revolution, we had the development of materialism, consumerism, democratic governments. The whole way the world has been very earthy because Jupiter Saturn were meeting in Earth signs of Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. And that was also the development of capitalism. So that we have built over 200 years, humanity has built a civilization, an infrastructure of earthy matters, very solid, very grounded. Now, in the concept of elements, Earth is the lowest of the elements. It's very solid. You can't go down below Earth. So that's where we've been at as a civilization. But we're now moving into air. And the first air conjunction was in 1980 to the year 2000. And there was a lot of blossoming at the time and some really interesting movements and things going on that highlighted all sorts of change. It resulted in mobile phones and the internet. Those were two, which of course are very airy devices. And then we had to go back. We had to live through another 20 years of Taurus. So the world wasn't actually ready to move into air. We still had to have 20 years left of Taurus, which has been we've had a very selfish materialistic culture for the last 20 years, I suppose, But now we are 1 month away from the new air. When Jupiter-Saturn meet in air now, it's going to be for another 160 years. So for the rest of our lives, we're going to be experiencing this fantastic, well, let's hope, this is rather
we hope.
And air is an element that rises, okay? Water and earth go down, air and fire rise. So we're moving into a rising up of humanity, okay? By its very nature, air rises. So we're lifting off quite literally into something new. It's very exciting. Now in London, okay, this Jupiter-Saturn, and now just because I've got the chart set for London, this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction is at 0 Aquarius. And we know it is, of course it is everywhere, but what I'm trying to say is that it's setting on the descendant at 621, which is exact. This is the exact Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, is at 1821 on December the 21st. And it's on the horizon. It's on the horizon over England and over London.
And it's the exact declination. The declination that it's making only happens every 400 years.
Yeah.
Although we have Jupiter-Saturn conjunct, more obviously much more frequently than that. What is that? Every 13 years or something, we have a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. But every 400 years,
yeah.
When the Jupiter and Saturn are just above the horizon at the same declination, it merges and becomes a really, really, really bright star, equivalent to the Star of Bethlehem, from what I can read. So every 400 years, you have this extraordinary star, and it's only there for a very, very short time because it only stays close together for a short time. So if it's a clear night on the 21st of December,
yeah.
And you look above the horizon in the west, I think it's the west.
Southwest, Robin, you know, that sort of direction.
Yeah, you will be able, and it's just after the sun sets, and we've got a first quarter moon, so it's going to be fairly dark. There won't be too much light.
The sun will have set, the sky will be dark. And if you do look southwest and you can get, and there's no cloud cover and you've got a good horizontal view, then you'll see the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction setting in the west, directly above where the sun was, pretty much.
Yeah.
You know,
and it will be bright enough for you to see it. So yeah, it's an exciting time.
Very exciting. Get your binoculars out, or get a telescope or whatever, and have a good look at that, because that is a very special event for astrologers to see it like this right now. And so we need to be cheering it on, you know, and saying, let's see something really amazing, you know, in the world now. You know, it's a very, very, very exciting time. So we all hope for the best, don't we?
So do you want to put up the chart now for our first day when we've left the EU? Do you want to put that chart up?
Yes. So can you see the chart? Can you see the chart?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so we've had me and Robin have discussed this for a while now, and of course there've been a few different Brexity kind of leaving charts. But when did the people really get to feel it? You know, and we thought, well, it's got to be really the 1st of January 2021, because that's actually the end of the transition period. And if they haven't reached a deal, this is going to be the big moment. This is kind of like the big moment that we've been building up to.
And this will be a new chart that we will use.
Say again, Robin?
This will be the new chart that we will use along with the 1801 chart until all the different countries start breaking apart, like Scotland and Wales and Ireland, and then we'll have another chart.
Yeah, but absolutely. But interestingly enough, yeah, of course, the chart looks very similar to the 1801 chart. It looks very, very similar. It has the same angles, and
same
the sun
ascendant, yeah,
is at pretty much the same degree as well. In fact, if you did an overlay of the two, hang on a minute. If we put the new chart in the middle, and then we put the 1801 chart on the outside, as you can see, it's the 1st of January. So of course, yeah, sun's going to be at 10 degrees Capricorn, you know, so there it is, you know, so the angles are the same, right? And the sun is in the same place.
Isn't that interesting that the
really
moon
interesting.
Jupiter? Yeah.
Really interesting, because of course, you know, primarily the keeping of the union is really key, right, to pretty much everything actually. What I noticed and what I thought was very interesting was the fact that the new chart has got the moon at 2 degrees Leo, right on the Jupiter of the 1801 chart. And if you did, well, it's kind of, that's kind of like a Jupiter in the 11th, you know, or Jupiter moon.
And the moon rules the midheaven, so it looks a bit more fun, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. So it could be a very, very interesting chart. And
so we're ruled by Venus, which is in Sag.
With the South Node.
Yeah.
So it's going back to something old, something repeated, something from a long time
ago. Something more comfortable, perhaps.
Yeah. And look how Mercury in the 1801 chart is very close to that Venus. So it's almost like there's a bit of swapping around, but there's quite a lot of similarity as well, you know. So I think that's a sort of interesting kind of thing. You know, if the transition phase is not that difficult, if they strike a deal in the next couple of weeks, then this will be quite a nice chart to have, you know, as a new chart, you know. So I think that's sort of, you know, quite interesting. Let's go back to that again. So we won't label it officially as the chart until we know what's happening, I guess. But I think that's worth keeping in mind, the data for that chart, and seeing how it overlays the classic 1801. So yeah, we'll see how that develops. You know, Venus is going to be squaring Neptune. I think Chiron, the descendant, is interesting. It will change our relationships a lot, you know. A lot of people say we're shooting ourselves in the foot, you know. So it's kind of like a Chironic sort of on the descendant thing.
Maybe it'll take until that moon progresses down to the ascendant. So
yes,
what's that? 60 years. Gosh, that's a long time.
When the moon progresses to the ascendant,
yeah,
is would be, well, it would be 2.5 years, 5 years, 6 years.
65 years. That's when it'll kind of settle into being whoever we're meant to be in the new world. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I won't be around, so I don't care. Okay, so should we have a bit of a change of direction and go back to what's going on in America? I'd quite like to look at the inauguration chart.
Absolutely. So I'll stop sharing screens and you take over, Robin, okay?
Okay. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. So this is the inauguration chart for the new presidency, and I think I've got the right date. I think it's the 20th of January. And it's interesting that the moon's right there on the ascendant, but it's in very late degrees of Aries, which indicates that there's something new about to happen, something, you know, a moving on time. And it's going to take 18 months. If we progress that moon, it's going to take 18 months to go into Taurus, where it's going to be much happier. So I think moon in Aries is not particularly happy, but it's going to take a little while to settle down. The interesting thing is that the moon is making a square to everything. I mean, it's going to square the sun, the Saturn, conjunct the Mars and the Uranus, and square the Jupiter. So that indicates that, you know, there's going to be several months of disruption a lot of disruption, a lot of upset going on there in the States before things settle down. I could tell that when I looked at Biden's chart, because I think he's got some between 8 and 10 eclipse cycles going on over the next 2 or 3 years, which is quite extraordinary. It indicated that, you know, enormous amount of work and an enormous amount of disruption, I would say, in this next presidency for the next couple of years. Things seem to change in 2023. So where would the moon be then? Yeah. So once the moon goes into Gemini, I think that it'll be easier. So that's what, 30, well, yeah, maybe not that long. I know when I look at the charts for 2023, things look a bit more positive as far as the situation in America, but I think that they have got quite a disruptive time coming up, especially if you look at the Sibley chart. So, yeah, quite interesting though, looking at that moon going through all of these squares, all of that Aquarius, conjunct the Mars and Uranus. That's quite strong, isn't it there? That Mars-Uranus is almost exact. And this Venus is like kind of out, it's a bit isolated. I mean, Venus is ruler of the first, and it's ruler of the seventh. But it's kind of disconnected to everything. So, yeah, I think there's going to be lots of issues to do with sorting out the financial situation, etc. I mean, like the UK, we've got, because of the coronavirus, we've all got a lot of disruption caused by the financial situation over the next couple of years. And when I look at the coronavirus charts, I think we go to the full moon chart linked to the coronavirus cycle in June, and that indicates that the biggest disruption in our lives at that point in time will be to do with money, to do with the financial situation, people out of work, businesses collapsing, etc. So I think that, you know, we've got quite a lot of things to cope with over the next year or two. But as we all know, everything keeps moving on, nothing stays the same. So we are all expecting that. We're all waiting for it, really. Right, so does anybody want to say anything? I haven't got anything in the chat here as far as I can see.
Oh, here we go. Hannah Stewart says, she has a question.
Hannah, yes.
Mars conjunct Uranus indicate Biden not lasting the whole term?
No, I don't think Biden will last the whole term. No. I think Biden, I think if you actually think about the fact that we've got Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius, we're going into a new world. Biden and Trump belong to the old world. They're old school. They're represented by Capricorn. You know, we're going into a new era, and once we start going into that, we're dipping our toes into it from Christmas on. But from then on, things will move quite rapidly, I think, because anything in air moves a lot faster than anything in Earth. So I think that the changes will be quite fast, and there'll be no turning back. And I think that looking at Biden's chart, and I'm not going to put it up tonight because it's a chart for another day, but looking at his chart, he's got a lot of work on his hands and a lot of responsibility and a lot of disruption. And I think it will play on his health. I really do. And I would say that in 2023, Kamala Harris will take over. And that's beginning of a whole new way of living, because she won't continue in the old way. I'm sure that the government situation will change there, as it is going to in the UK, and as it will in Europe as well. So we've all got a lot of change coming up over the next couple of years, especially when the nodes go into Taurus Scorpio, because once the nodes go into Taurus Scorpio, it's all about business and money, and a lot of charts like the EU and the Euro and a lot of the different countries have got a lot of Scorpio Taurus planets and angles, and there's going to be massive changes over the next 2 or 3 years. And
I like, Robin, how you referred to there as being lighter and quicker. It really is, isn't it? Things are going to move so much faster.
Things will move very fast.
Yeah. It's interesting how we've had that earthy cycle, and everything can sometimes seem to move so very slowly in the world. You know?
Well, hasn't this year been slow?
Yes.
I mean, all those planets in Capricorn, and it's like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I've just been in bed for the last year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, just all merged into one, hasn't it? And thank God we're all astrologers, because at least we can look at the charts and understand what's going on.
Yes, absolutely.
And at least we can see that things are going to change and move on. Nothing stays the same. And whether that's because people are having vaccines, or whether the virus just decides to up and go at some stage, who knows? I don't know. But things will change, and people's lifestyles will change, and their priorities will change, and it's just it seems to me at the moment that that we kind of went a bit too far with the whole globalization thing, and it's very interesting and very sad, but very interesting that it's the travel industry that's really taking severe knock. And I don't think a lot of the businesses related to travel are going to survive.
Right.
So I don't think that that means that we're not ever going to be able to travel anymore. I'm sure we will. It'll probably just become much more expensive because there won't be the competition. If I was in my my 30s, I think I'd be buying myself some, like holiday homes or something like that, because I'm sure people will decide to do a lot of their holidaying in their own country rather than going abroad.
Yeah.
Okay, so shall I just have a look
at the lunar eclipse? I mean, people are very welcome to ask us questions at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
So write something in the chat window if you want to.
I don't want you to feel that we're just talking at you. I mean, our plan when we decided to do this was bringing you the news before it happened, because I think that's what astrologers should be able to do. I think we should be able to look at charts, and we should be, and we should be able to say, well, look, this is what appears to be happening. This is what is coming up for us now. We need to be prepared for that. Saying that, I had an exact Mercury-Saturn forming a T-square with my sun, with my natal sun the other day, and I had it marked in red in my ephemeris. And anyhow, I had an appointment. I didn't think about it. I thought, oh, that's the appointment is related to going to, the aspects are related to going to this appointment. Anyhow, my son was with me, and his birthday's the day before mine. So he also had the same T-square. And I said to him, we couldn't park the car anywhere. I said to him, can you just take the car and just park it around the corner or park it down the road? Anyhow, he smashed the car up. And I just thought, even as an astrologer and knowing that I had Mercury, Saturn, Sun, T-square, and my son had exactly the same, why on earth would I ask him to move my car? God knows. But the trouble is we can know all these things, but when it actually comes to it, you don't remember. So, yeah, so let's get up some more charts, shall we?
There's a question here from Margaret Hay.
Yeah.
Neptune goes direct as well this coming weekend. How does this play into scenarios you have already outlined with Venus, Uranus, and Mercury aspecting the Capricorn planets? And looking forward to 2021 as well.
Well, the Neptune, of course, is making a tighter aspect to the nodes, or the nodes are actually making a tighter aspect to Neptune, because the nodes are going down, aren't they? And the Neptune's going up. So they're making a tighter T-square. I think on some level, I mean, on one level, I think it's quite a spiritual aspect. And I think with the Saturn and Jupiter going into Aquarius and the Neptune and nodes, in fact, I'm not sure with the Neptune, with the Jupiter Saturn going into Aquarius, what is the exact degree of the Neptune at the time? I'm not sure. But I just think it's all quite spiritual. And I think that there really is going to be a shift in the energy. If you're sensitive or, you know, intuitive to the feeling of places, I think you will notice a real shift in the energy, a real change of the way everything feels. So that's on a spiritual level. On a mundane level, I think it can be quite confusing if it's aspecting anything in your chart.
Well, yes, Neptune is it can be the great planet of confusion.
But Margaret, I mean, do you have anything to say about that? Do you want to unmute Margaret and see if she wants to say anything?
Hang on a minute. Let's just see if I can get that. Gallery and so hang on a minute. I'm just looking for Margaret on the list here. Margaret Hay. If I've just asked you to unmute, Margaret. If you want to mention anything, you're very welcome to.
No, thanks. I suppose I'm aware of Neptune because I have it in first house, not far from the ascendant. So I find myself affected by it. But I'm thinking about how that ties into the Venus-Uranus shock scenarios. Maybe Shemaima Begum, maybe America, maybe something else, because it is Uranus and he is unpredictable.
Absolutely.
So Neptune just adds a bit of more haziness and confusion to the whole thing, really.
It does, doesn't it? Yes. And thank you for that, Margaret. You know, we've got, you know, Mercury has just made a trine to Neptune, you know, as well. And in fact, Robin, if you stop share, I'll do a share screen and put up today's chart.
Yeah, I was going to actually just, well, yes, you can, but I was also going to mention, which I think is relevant for what's going on at the minute. I don't know how many of you are watching The Crown on Netflix, but it's quite interesting that the Queen has her sun at 0 Taurus, and Charles has his moon at 0 Taurus, and the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in Aquarius is going to be squaring those planets. So I would expect something around Christmas or early in the new year coming up about the royal family.
Yes.
Some sort of shift going on there. So what do you want me to do? Stop share?
Well, and I will just put up the a chart for now. So can you see that?
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got the Neptune stations. Neptune starts its station on Saturday, so it's pretty much at its point of going forwards again. It makes a 1 degree square to the nodes. So I would say when Neptune's squaring, then there's something about the idealism or the vision of how things should be is changing, you know, and we have had this very slightly odd, you know, wave of populism and people like Dominic Cummings around and Donald Trump and all this sort of thing has been.
Talking about Dominic Cummings, have you noticed how things have changed since he went? Now we've got people, being, cabinet ministers coming on to GMTV and being prepared to talk, and also to say that they were wrong about things. That was something that surprised me today. And when I did my talk at the conference last June, Dominic Cummings had a eclipse on his, I think it was on his Jupiter, actually. But anyhow, I looked at his chart, and for various reasons, I said, I don't think he'll be here. I think he'll leave within the next 9 months. And of course, 6 months later, he did leave. So that was quite interesting. We haven't heard the last of him. He's going to do an expose book or something along those lines, and then that'll be the last quarter moon. So I think we'll probably hear about that next spring or summer.
Yes, yes. And it's about if Neptune is that kind of collective dream, if you like, then maybe the new President-elect Biden is bringing the new dream, something different. This is also kind of is Brexit as well, to a certain extent. It's kind of like what can we imagine is going to happen next? If the imagination is kind of linked to Neptune, really. Of course it is Moon and Mercury, but it is as well that had a sort of a heightened type of Neptune influence. So
yeah, we're very happy for anyone else anybody else got any ideas. They'll all be gratefully listened to. Please don't, please unmute yourself if you want to say anything. Okay.
And on the day of the conjunction, the Great Conjunction of 2020, I stopped sharing, didn't I? Hang on. So we'll go back to that again. At the moment of the Great Conjunction, Neptune's in the 8th house for England, and it squares the nose in the 11th and the 5th. So maybe there is something about, Neptune in the 8th. I mean, not so good for our resources, not so good for our money, really, in the nation's resources, should we say? But this is something. There's something very social about this. That the fact that the descendant is in Aquarius, in the 7th house, and Jupiter, Saturn here meeting in the 7th. I think that's a really, really important thing for the.
It's interesting that the ascendant descendant's at the same degree, isn't it?
Yes, yes. And this, I think, is just a massively. The fact that they meet, they go exact. That is the exact time of their conjunction, and it's on a horizontal line. It's going right over London. I mean, it's London's or England. The UK is getting really infused with that Jupiter Neptune. With the Jupiter Saturn. So we something very interesting going on there. Yeah.
Maybe it's about, maybe because that's where it's set for London, and it'll be different in each country, obviously, where the Jupiter Saturn falls. And also you can consider where the Jupiter Saturn falls in your own chart.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's in this chart set for London looks hopeful for our relationships with other people, doesn't it?
Yes. In fact, actually, you're right, Robin. It's just to quickly review what's happening in people's charts this particular cycle. Can you see the animate chart when I bring it up? Actually, hang on. Can you see an animated chart there? Can you see the chart, Robin?
It's not animating, no.
No. Okay, hang on. Can you see that now?
It's not animating, but yes, I can see it, but it's not.
Yeah.
Is it meant to be moving?
No, it's me. I can move it like this.
Oh, I see. All right, yeah.
So So this Venus-Uranus opposition, of course, with the moon coming into it on Friday, this would be very much affecting people with their birthdays in the last 10 days of October, the last the last 10 days of January, the last 10 days of April, and the last 10 days of July, because it's in fixed signs. And so if you know anybody with birthdays, family, friends, partners, relationships, then this is where the Venus-Uranus opposition is occurring. You know, so sun signs in these areas, and also it, you know, that would be that Venus-Uranus opposition, and it can be very precise by really nailing it down to saying the exact dates. You know, so there's quite a nice bit of predictive work to go there. If you know, if you can see that in, you know, that this would be around about October the 28th, I would think, something like that. And this will be around about April the 28th, and then again January 28 and July 28. So those are the people who are going to be getting the real ping ding of this Venus-Uranus opposition, and the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. Actually, I'll just wait a sec. Let's just do that one again. Hang on a sec. Wait a sec. Hang on. Let me just get that right. And then for a prediction for people's lives over, you know, in your chart or other friends or families, chart members, you know, their charts, then the exact conjunction of Jupiter-Saturn at 0 Aquarius is going to be a 20-year cycle, okay? And that's going to be pinging exactly on people with their birthdays around about January 21, around about April 21, July 21, and October 21. This Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, it's a big thing for those people. But also for the next 20 years, you know, but also it's throwing a semi-square to 15 degrees of Pisces, 15 degrees of Sagittarius, and it's throwing sesqui-squares, 135s, to 15 Gemini and 15 Virgo. But of course, it's the air signs and the fire signs who do well out of this, because it does sextiles to people with their birthdays at the beginning of Aries and the beginning of Sagittarius, and it does trines to people at the beginning of Libra, birthdays at the beginning of Libra, and birthdays at the beginning of Gemini. My personal experience with the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction was when it conjuncted at 23 Taurus in the year 2000, it squared my Mercury. And I found this last 20 years to be really challenging, in a very interesting way. So I would like to say that have a look at that, you know, for a cycle, and see, you know, what's coming up in your chart, you know, when you look at those, what we could call the hot degrees, you know, of what's happening, you know. So
I would allow at least, you know, 4 degrees, really,
yes,
for this conjunction, because it's such a major conjunction that I think if you got anything up to 4 or 5 of Aquarius,
absolutely,
that it's going to have an impact. Somebody's asked about enforced vaccinations. Is it? I don't know how to pronounce your name. Is it Seja? I don't know if we can find her. Anyway, I don't see how vaccinations can be enforced at this point in time. I don't think they're going to have enough vaccinations to start with. They may enforce people, they say they're going to vaccinate the elderly first, so they may enforce vaccinations if you're living in a home. or something like that, or if you're being cared for by the state. But I really don't see how vaccinations can be enforced at this stage. And everyone's got their own opinions about vaccinations, but I'm one of those people who'd rather just, I've got a Capricorn moon, so I think I'll just wait and see what happens. I'm not going to be jumping feet first into being vaccinated with something that hasn't been trialed for very long. But everyone has to make their own choices and decisions about that. But as far as mandatory vaccinations are concerned, that may happen in the future, who knows? But at this point in time, I think it's highly unlikely. What really worries me, though, is that apparently this coronavirus has mutated in many forms throughout the animal world. And what worries me is if your local pets, like your dogs and cats, etc., get coronavirus, then they may have to be put down or something like that. I mean, one hates to think what might happen if our pets get coronavirus. I've got no idea. It's a bit of a scary thought, isn't it, really?
Yes. There's a couple of other chats have come up as well. So Sharon asks, have we looked at the 14th of December eclipse? Saturn is conjunct his position as in the Aries ingress.
Yeah, I'm going to look at that next time because I think we've got a lot to deal with and think about over the next couple of weeks, and we wanted to bring in the lunar eclipse because that happens next week before we meet again.
So
I've got quite a lot of charts to put up related to the 14th of December eclipse. So I think we'll do that next time round. Mary Hart has said, my parents don't normally have flu jabs, and when someone from surgery phoned, they intimated they'd have to have one before they got a COVID. I actually had to go to my local surgery a month ago to have a blood test for something. And they said, oh, you can have your flu jab while you're here. And I said, well, I don't have flu jabs. And they said, are you refusing to have a flu jab? And I said, well, I've never had flu, so I can't see why I would want to have a flu jab. And, you know, she really did her best to talk me into the flu jab. And I said, I just refused. I said, no, I'm not going to have it at this point in time. So I think that you do have to be quite firm if you don't want to have anything. Because, you know, it is against the law to be forced at this stage. Unless they change the law, it is against the law to force anyone to have any kind of medication or treatment. Mini market in Denmark was affected. Yes, that's scary. The mink market, yes, of course. They've had to get rid of, I don't know, tens of thousands of minks. I know that. But apparently, the coronavirus has mutated into other animal forms. So I know that, and I can't remember which different types of livestock or what have you it was. But I just thought it'd be quite worrying if our cats and dogs were to pick it up, because, you know, they probably would have to be put down possibly. So, gosh.
Yes.
Hannah's got something at 1 degree of Libra. That sounds good, Hannah. I'm just reading through the chat. We'll save the eclipse of the December eclipse for next time. So
yes, our next meeting is December the 8th, folks. Tuesday, December the 8th.
Yeah, and the eclipse is the 14th.
Yeah.
Should we go back to my screen? I'll see what I've got. Yes. I'll see what I've got on my.
You can do a share screen now, Robin.
Yes, all right. I just sharing. So let me just see what I'm going to have a look at. Yeah, let's have a look at poor Melania Trump. New share. We could have, all right. Right, so this is Melania Trump. So she's got this whole Scorpio thing going on in her chart at the minute with that Sun and Saturn, and she's got that Venus, Mercury. She's got Uranus opposition her Sun. No, sorry, she's got Uranus conjunct her Sun. Uranus conjunct her Sun, then she's going to have it conjunct Saturn. Sun-Saturn is difficult, and when you've got Uranus there, and it's going to be on the midpoint between the Sun and Saturn, and it's on her ICMC as well, if her time's correct. That was the time I was given by somebody, but whether it's correct or not, I don't know. But nevertheless, I think that's quite disruptive for her. And the Mars in Gemini, of course, is being picked up by the lunar eclipse next week, so she's going to be affected by that as well. Let's see what else I've got on there. So it's the USA Sibley chart. So this is the Uranus that we're looking at, and this is where the Mars and Uranus were in the Civil War. So that's obviously quite a super sensitive point. Can you see that chart all right, Jules?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So
very sensitive point indeed there.
Very sensitive point. So some sort of disruptions expected there, isn't it? And what does it rule? It rules the third house. The third house keeps coming up in several charts I've looked at. The third house keeps coming up, and I think, is it something they're going to find? Something written, some sort of documentation or something, I wonder. I don't know.
Well, it's in one's local environment, couldn't it, as well, you know?
Yeah, but how does that equate to the States? It's such a vast place, really.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I think it's always interesting that Donald Trump's Mars is on the, Donald Trump's sun sign is on America's Mars.
Yes. So here's the Queen. She's gone through a lot in the last year or two with her nodes being here at Cancer, Capricorn. And of course, Jupiter's going to go through all of this, isn't it? Jupiter's going to go through there. I mean, Jupiter already gets to Pisces in May. It does go back again into Aquarius, but it whizzes through. In the first part of the year, it's going to conjunct her Sun, and then it's going to whiz through Mars and Jupiter, square her Sun, whizzing through there. And of course, the Jupiter opposes the Neptune. It's going to, the Saturn Jupiter are going to oppose her moon, especially the Jupiter is going to oppose her moon. So yeah, I think there's quite a lot coming out in relation to the royal family. Let's have a little quick look at Charles. So there you are, his moon is being affected by that Saturn-Jupiter. The Saturn-Jupiter is only conjunct at 0 of Aquarius for a very, very short time. But because it's conjunct, it's a lot of energy. So it's obviously, you know, having its effect in some way. And it's interesting that his moon rules his 12th house. And if you've seen any of The Crown, one wonders if it might be his self-undoing, who knows? And of course, all this Scorpio is being picked up as well at the minute. Uranus opposite his Mercury. And of course, Uranus is picking up his nodes as well. So, yeah, not easy times for them. What else have I got to look at? I think I'm kind of done, really. There's no point in going through the whole Biden, Kamala Harris thing at this point in time. So, Yeah, over to you, Jules. I don't know if anyone wants to say anything else or wants us to talk about anything else.
I think that that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction squaring Prince Charles's moon and his nodes and his Mercury. I mean, that's going to he's not going to really want to have a very much of a public life when that's happened. I don't think.
One wonders. One wonders.
From the public life, you know.
Yeah. Well.
I mean,
there's definitely you know, with Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius, the monarchy can't continue in the way it has. So I love the monarchy because I love looking at their charts, and I'm really enjoying the Crown, even though I know that there's a bit of fiction involved, but there is a lot of fact. But there's a bit of artistic or creative license going on there as well.
Yeah.
But I am quite enjoying it.
We have a question in the chat window, actually, Robin, for from Nepal, who asked for something on Kamala Harris.
Oh, you want Kamala Harris's chart, do you?
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Okay. Okay, here she is. Fascinating chart. I can tell you that her progressed sun is exactly here at 24 degrees on the South Node, on the 7th house cusp, becoming a partner in a relationship, of course, as the vice president. And she's going to have her Saturn return in a couple of years. The interesting thing is that this exact Moon-Saturn opposition in her chart. Now, she wasn't born on an eclipse, but she was born on a full moon. So what you see is what you get. When someone's born on a full moon, everything's out there. There's no hidden agenda. There's nothing, nothing hidden about her. Her sun and moon are in exact opposition to each other. And very perceptive Mercury there in Scorpio. It is combust the sun, but nevertheless, the sun is making a lovely trine to Saturn. And I've done a lot of work on her chart for the future, really, because it was Kamala Harris's chart which actually made me look at Biden's chart, because in the beginning I wasn't really very interested, and I looked at Trump's chart and everyone was saying Trump's going to win. I just thought, oh, well, yeah. I mean, not being American and not living in America, I hadn't really taken much notice of it at all. And then I looked at Pence's chart, and then I thought, no, you're not going to move on in life in any way. And then I looked at Kamala Harris's chart and I thought, oh my gosh, this person is going to really do something important with her life. And the interesting thing about this chart is it's quite similar to Ruth Bader Ginsburg's chart. And, I always think that people who have a kite-shaped chart are here. They have a mission to fulfill. They're here on a mission. And I think that is, that's highlighted as well by the nodes on her angles and the Saturn on her midheaven and that wonderful kite-shaped chart. And she's got a purpose and she's going to fulfill it, So very, very interesting. And I think that the reason that Biden has got the presidency is because he's her way in. He's her ticket into the presidency. And I think everything will change when she becomes president. And I think all the whole way that the political setup is, the way the government's set up and everything, I think all of that she will be the instigator. So very, very interesting to watch. There's another young girl, I think she's 33, and I can't remember her name. They call her AOC, but I think she's Alexandra something or other. Cortez or something like that, AOC. Anyhow, she's only 33. She again has got a very, very interesting chart, and I think she's going to be a mover shaker on the American political scene. So I think that there's going to be all these really powerful women coming into prominence over the next, few years. So very interesting to watch how these things are starting to play out. And it's a bit like our politics here in the UK with, Boris and Gove and Hunt and all these people. They're all very old school. They don't really fit into this new paradigm that we're moving into. We're moving into this Aquarian age, and they don't fit. So I don't think they're going to be around for that long either. So yeah, watch this space. Always interesting being astrologers, isn't it? You can just spend hours surmising how things are going to play out. Does anyone want to say anything about Kamala Harris's chart?
She's a very incisive and clever speaker. As you said, the Mercury is under the sun's beams, but that Mercury in Scorpio is very incisive. She gets to, that's why she was kind of like a prosecutor, wasn't it? Well,
she may not say a lot. She may not say a lot, but it's all going in. And I was quite impressed with a couple of times I've seen her speak that, she's not pushy. She's like very relaxed, and it all just comes very naturally to her. And I was quite impressed with the couple of times I've watched her speak. I did put her acceptance speech up on my Facebook because I thought, oh my God, this is the new era where women are going to kind of play a really prominent role. So
Sarah Burton says the sun and moon are square the USA's Pluto.
That's interesting. Yes,
very, very interesting. Yeah,
certainly going to shake things up there, isn't she?
Yes.
Some sort of dramatic transformation. And I think she's got an eclipse. She's got a solar eclipse in 2023, hitting off this full moon. And and then she has various really interesting transits from then on. And I know that I did her, I think I did her solar return for when she's 60, which I think there's an eclipse like 2 or 3 days before that. Can't remember. And I thought that was extremely interesting as well. So that would be 2024. So again, I think 2023 and 2024 are very important years for Kamala Harris.
Yes. Mary Hartz asks for a bit on Boris.
Boris, oh right, Boris. Well, poor Boris, he's got the Saturn-Jupiter square his moon coming up.
He certainly has, hasn't he?
You've got Boris there. Why don't you put Boris up?
Okay, so if you stop sharing screen, I'll put Boris up.
Okay. So yeah, Boris is a bit lost without Dominic to tell him what to do. Because their charts, the two charts were so interwoven. I mean, his Mars was on Dominic's Saturn, Dominic's Mars was on his Saturn. The whole chart was so interwoven. So there we go. He's got moon in Scorpio.
So Boris's chart in the middle and the transits on the outside at the moment.
Yeah.
Boris has got this Venus-Uranus opposition about to occur right on the cusp of his 2nd and 8th. The eclipse is sort of it's in Gemini, but it doesn't.
That eclipse is not affecting him.
Yeah,
that's too far up. Yeah, I mean Saturn might be caught up in it a bit, but I mean it's not prominent the way the other charts are. Yeah. I think Rishi Sunak, yes, I think Rishi Sunak could become PM. Yeah. Not because I've seen his chart, I can't remember his chart, but he is the type of person that's likely to become PM.
Yes. I'm sure.
He kind of fits the age group, because I think everything is going to get younger and younger. I don't have Priti Patel's chart. I haven't seen it. But from what I've heard about her, I don't think she'll last too long.
To say about Boris's chart with the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction at 0 Aquarius squaring his moon at 0 Scorpio. Again, because the moon rules his midheaven, it's almost as if he might have different thoughts about his career, you know, and whether or not he really fits in as being a prime minister, you know, a natural kind of inclination to feel emotionally separated from his career, you know.
Well, don't forget that the moon rules his second house, and I think he's going to be struggling financially, and I think he may have a rethink about being PM. He may think that actually he's not getting all the glory and attention that he thought he might get as PM. So he may actually decide to stand down on health reasons or something like that, and go and write his books, or go back to his writing his articles for the Telegraph, which he used to get paid 140 grand for a time. I don't see him lasting the 5 years. I think there's something coming up with that Saturn-Jupiter square his moon.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, we did a lot of stuff on his chart a few months ago, didn't we, Jules? And and he seemed to be having quite a rocky time in January.
He's got a huge amount of stuff coming up right now. If you look at,
I think we need to leave all of that for another night, though, because it's already 8:30, and you know, I think that's a whole different era. I think we should see what the Saturn Jupiter is about with his moon, don't you?
Yes, yes. But he has got
anything?
a lot of very, very difficult aspects right now.
Very. I'm just wondering what the any other chat.
He also
I wanted to say to you, our friend and colleague Jessica Adams is going to be on GMTV talking about astrology with, I think it's GMTV, but it's definitely ITV anyway, and it's on Tuesday morning. So if you've got your telly on Tuesday morning, it might be worth tuning in, because anything that's promoting astrology has got to be good for all of us.
Yes, excellent. Piers Morgan is a fan of astrology, I believe. So.
Sorry?
I think Piers Morgan has always been a fan of astrology. Oh,
right. Well, he only lives down the road. We should go to his local pub and ask him.
he was the editor of the Daily Mirror when Jonathan Caner asked for the full page, and he gave it to him.
All right. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just reading through the chat. Nothing much. Okay. So I just know. I'm trying to see what that's about. Melania Trump's birth time. I have got a birth time, which I took from somebody else. Whether it's correct or not, I don't know. But the chart seems to fit her. But I haven't really looked much at the angles, although the chart I've done has got her Sun and Saturn on the IC, which seems quite interesting. But unless I can get back to my screen, I can't tell you what it is, but I can PM it to you. DM it.
You have Melania Trump's birth time then, Robin, is it?
Melania Trump, I've got something for her that I took from somebody else, but I don't know how accurate it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, are we?
Oh, well, I think we're done. Yeah.
Are we done? Yeah. Okay.
So I hope that Trump hasn't quite conceded yet. Is it possible he may get a second term? No possibility in a million years. No, never has been possible. And I cannot understand why 50% of the astrologers have said that it was possible. I know that people have used lots of different methods, and I know some really eminent astrologers have come up with different systems of astrology and said that Trump would continue to be in. But if you looked at the amount of cycles that he's got going on with eclipses and what have you, and the sort of eclipses and things he's got, he hasn't got a chance. He's got a lot coming up for him, but it won't be in the presidency. So yeah, I think that yeah, enough said. Really. I really don't know much about American politics, I must admit. I really don't, but I do know astrology, and I do know, particularly know the moon phases and the nodal cycles and what have you. And he's got an eclipse on his south node, and when you've got an eclipse on your south node, you have to let go, move on. So yeah.
Right, well, it's been a pleasure to chat to you all this evening, folks. I hope you enjoyed our presentation. Please do tell your friends about it, spread the word, as it were. We're going to be Tuesday the 8th of December, and Tuesday the 22nd of December will be our next Zoom presentations. And we will be giving you more up-to-date current affairs with astrology then. You can find Robin on her website, robinray.com. Is that correct, Robin?
Yeah.
And I'm londonastrologer.com. And I also have a YouTube channel called Julian, the London Astrologer. So I hope you have enjoyed this. And
anything that any of you, if you send me an email beforehand, if there's anything that you particularly want to have a look at, but it has to be, we are really trying to stick to current affairs. We don't mind if you've got something natally going on that links with what's going on with the planets at this point in time, then that's interesting. But we are trying to just stick to current affairs, what's coming up, and trying really, as astrologers, to be able to read the charts and have a damn good idea in advance what it's all about.
Yeah.
So, bringing the news to you before it happens. That's
Absolutely.
our plan. That is our plan.
Yes. Bringing the news before it happens.
Yeah. So lots of love to you all. Hope you have a good couple of weeks. And yeah, thanks very much for coming.
Yeah. See you next time. Thank you.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye. All right. Well, I think that went quite well, Robin, didn't you?
Still quite a few here.
Three people who have.
Yeah, is Maureen still here? Maureen can say hello if she understands.
No, I think she's gone, actually.
She's gone, and you've turned me off anyway. All right. Okay, so
I think that went very well, didn't you?
I think it was fine, yeah. And yeah, they were very quiet tonight, though, weren't they?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm quite happy when people listen, just want.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah.
Because sometimes you can get a question that kind of, not exactly puts a spanner in the works, but it can one has to start thinking about answering something when there's other stuff in one's mind, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody's just sent me an email, a text on my phone. Yes, I'd love to do this. However, she's a bit late. So I'll have to send her a link for next week. Yeah.
We've got quite a few thank yous, which is always nice, isn't it?
Oh, read the chat to me, because I haven't seen the chat. Have they all left now?
No, we've still got a couple of people, but I don't think they're sat at their machines. So.
Well, right, okay.
So everyone says well, not everyone, but there's a lot of thank yous. Okay.
Right.
Are
they enjoying it?
Yeah. At least, I would say, at least a dozen thank yous.
Oh, good. Good. As long as it's going down well.
So that's good. Yeah.
All right, you can get back to your supper now, Jules.
Oh, I had that. I got.
What were you doing, gobbling your supper down so late?
Just whatever. Yeah, I know. All right. Thanks, Robin. I was trying to. I did have a snooze this afternoon.
Oh, so you're late.
I needed to, you know, otherwise
Yeah.
I would be in a sort of real state. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Do you feel a bit better?
Yeah, I think I'm doing all right. I'm feeling gradually a bit better. If I experience anxiety, I feel that lower right area flare up a bit. So it's anxiety based, you know. So things trying to sort out, you know, I've just sometimes if I really think about it, my past and everything, the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in 1980 or 82, 1980 was in 1982 was in Libra. And that was when I was like 13, 14. And I was going through a whole bunch of stuff around about then that really challenged me. For 35 years, I've been having to get over all that. And the ruler of that for me was Venus in Virgo, which I have retrograde. So I had a very weak 35 years of that Saturn Pluto in Libra, and I ended up doing all sorts of things that are not doing all sorts of, just that feeling of maybe you know, that's where my life has ended up like it did, you know. But it's really interesting, and now it's happening Capricorn, Saturn Pluto, and Saturn's on my midheaven, and I've really this year been feeling, yes, I can do it. I can take a public position. I can be more in control and have a career and do things rather than be what might I call it? You know, when it was that Saturn Pluto in Libra in my third house, with Venus ruling it, it was very weak. It was like I was always the underdog, you know, kind of thing. It felt like I wasn't able to push myself forwards because I've been really wounded. You know, when I was 13, 14, that Saturn Pluto conjunction in Libra really, really, you know, headmaster at my prep school and the boarding school generally really fucked me over, you know. I mean,
I think we've got a couple of people still.
No?
We've got a couple of people still here.
Yeah.
Beryl and Veronica need to unmute them and see what happens.
Yeah.
Maybe they've gone to sleep. Who knows?
Right.
Oh, Jules, I know. God.
Anyway, yeah, I won't talk anymore. No, you're right. I don't need to talk. It's bonkers. Wait a minute. I need you to. No, Robin, I can't hear you now. Darn it. You have to.
I'm unmuted now.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Beryl.
Beryl's still here.
Veronica got me to hear my sob story.
Never mind.
Who is Veronica?
Oh,
anyway?
dear, I do. Mm-hmm.
Who is Veronica Wood?
I don't know. No idea.
No, but I've been reflecting a lot about this year being a kind of my own personal sort of relaunch, really, and recognizing that I can make it, you know.
Of course you can.
Jessica's going to be on GMTV. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, Jessica will be on GMTV on Tuesday, and that's good for astrology.
Yes, it is.
In fact, it's quite interesting that they're actually inviting her.
Yes. She's been making lots of predictions, hasn't she? She's getting noticed.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. And that's what I think we should be doing. You have to stick your neck out, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. All right. I've left it far too late, you see. Well, I haven't left it too late.
Oh, of course you haven't. Don't be ridiculous.
Interesting enough, the person, the journalist tonight who listened, who tuned in from the Telegraph.
Was he there, was he?
He was there, yeah.
What was his name?
Nepal.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Nepal.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, yeah. He said it was interesting.
I'm gonna talk to him tomorrow.
He was in the chat, wasn't he?
He's been getting into astrology. I gave him a reading about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it blew his mind completely. I mean, completely. You know, he was just like, "Oh my God," you know. And now he's like, he said, "Well, I've been, you know," he says, "I've been looking into astrology these last couple of weeks because I think it's amazing." You know, I'm like, well. So
where does he write?
he's based in London.
All right, okay.
He pitches to all the newspapers.
All right, okay.
So, yeah. He does features.
Yeah. Well, maybe we need to set up a media.
Yes, we do, Robin. Actually, we do. And we need someone.
I think we need to close
He's
the
an
Zoom
experienced professional in the field. He knows people.
we'll close the Zoom, and if you want to continue talking, then I'll Zoom back in.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Yeah.
well, should we just talk on the phone?
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm closing this. Okay.